My name is Jake, and if I ever had any doubts about my place in the family, they vanished the day I found out about the will. It wasn't even some dramatic conversation where my parents sat me down and broke the news to me. No, I stumbled upon it completely by accident, through sheer dumb luck. It happened a few months ago when I was at their house. The very same house I'd been helping pay for over the last 5 years. The mortgage, the occasional grocery runs, fixing anything that broke. I was the one keeping it all afloat. Meanwhile, my brother Eric did absolutely nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean literally nothing. No job, no responsibilities, just endless lounging, waiting for life to hand him everything on a silver platter. And apparently, my parents were more than happy to make that happen. That day, I was helping my dad with some paperwork because, as usual, neither he nor my mom could figure it out themselves. He asked me to scan a few documents, legal papers, financial records. I didn't think much of it until I spotted a folder labeled Estate Plan and another titled Last Will and Testament. I'm not one to snoop, but curiosity got the better of me. After all, I was the one making sure they had a roof over their heads. It seemed reasonable to take a peek at how they'd planned their estate for the future. I opened the folder and saw words that hit me like a punch to the gut. Everything, literally everything, was going to Eric. The house, the savings, the assets. There wasn't even a mention of me except for a perfunctory line about how they loved both their sons equally. Yeah, right, equally. That's why their golden boy was getting it all, while the one who'd kept them afloat didn't even warrant a footnote. I felt like a complete idiot. I'd been busting my ass for them, paying their bills, ensuring they had food, while they sat back and planned a future where I didn't matter. And Eric? He wasn't just lazy, he was entitled. Never lifted a finger, never contributed a dime, but somehow he'd convinced them he deserved it all. Maybe because he was the younger son, maybe because they'd always coddled him, or maybe because he knew how to play them. Whatever the reason, they'd made their choice. I sat there, staring at the papers, my hands trembling with a mix of rage and betrayal. How long had they been planning this? Were they always going to use me as a financial safety net without ever giving anything back? Did they ever appreciate what I'd done for them? I don't know how long I sat there, but eventually my dad noticed I wasn't scanning anything. "Jake, what's taking so long?" he asked, walking into the room. I didn't even try to hide the will. I just held it up and, looking him dead in the eye, said, "So this is how it is, huh? Everything to Eric, after all I've done for you." My dad's face went pale for a moment, but then he sighed heavily, as if he were dealing with a tantrum-throwing child. "Jake, it's not what you think." "Really?" I snapped. "Because it looks pretty damn clear to me. I pay your mortgage, buy your groceries, fix this house, while Eric does nothing. And yet, he's the one who matters." He looked uneasy, but didn't offer a real explanation, just muttered, "It's complicated, and that's that." No apology, no attempt to justify it, just a weak excuse and the expectation that I'd swallow it and keep being their walking ATM. I should have walked out right then, but I needed to hear it from both of them. "Mom!" I called. She came in, and when she saw the will in my hands, she at least had the decency to look guilty. But her next words made my blood boil. "Jake, honey, you don't need the inheritance," she said softly, as if she were doing me a favor. "You have a good job, you're independent. But Eric, he struggles. We just want to make sure he's taken care of." That's when something inside me broke. They weren't even pretending to justify it. They knew exactly what they were doing and thought it was perfectly reasonable. All those years of enabling Eric's laziness, and now they were rewarding him with everything, while I was just the spare part they could discard. I took a deep breath, clenched my jaw, and set the will down on the table. "Got it," I said, my voice ice cold. "Good to know where I stand." Then I turned and walked out, ignoring their protests, slamming the door behind me. They'd made their choice. Now it was time for me to make mine. I didn't go back to that house, didn't call, didn't check in. For the first time in years, I let them fend for themselves. Something needed fixing? Figure it out. Groceries running low? Go to the store. And most importantly, when the mortgage bill came due, it wasn't my problem anymore. The silence lasted about 2 weeks. I think they figured I was just sulking and would come crawling back like always. Maybe they expected me to cool off and apologize for daring to question them. But the days passed, and I didn't say a word. More importantly, I didn't send any money. You could almost feel the shift in their attitude. Then one day, my phone buzzed. A text from my dad. Property tax deadline is coming up. That was it. No, hey, how are you? No, sorry about what happened. No, we really appreciate everything you've done. Just a cold, businesslike message, like I was still their personal ATM on speed dial. I stared at the screen, almost amused by how predictable it was. They really thought they could demand money like nothing had happened, that I'd keep playing their financial savior even after they'd made it clear I didn't matter. I typed back quickly. I'm sure Eric's got it covered. After all, the house is his now. Within 5 minutes, my mom called. I didn't answer. Then came her text. Jake, please don't be like this. We need to talk. Oh, now they wanted to talk? Now that the bills were piling up and reality was slapping them in the face? I waited an hour before responding. Nothing to talk about. You made your choice. Now live with it. I thought that'd be the end of it. I was sure I'd made my point, and I didn't regret a thing. But then, Eric got involved. Late that night, I got a text from him. The second I saw his name, I knew it'd be irritating. I opened it, and sure enough, it was pure entitlement. Dude, why are you making such a big deal out of this? It's not the end of the world. Just help them out like you always do. I almost laughed. Not the end of the world? He really thought I had no right to be upset? I shot back. No, I think it's your turn to step up. After all, you're the favorite. Eric, oh my God, are you seriously mad about a stupid will? Grow up, man. It's just money. There it was. Now that the money was his, it suddenly didn't matter. The irony was staggering. I typed, well, since it's just money, you shouldn't have any trouble spending it on the mortgage, right? Silence. A few minutes later, another text from my mom, this time in full guilt trip mode. Jake, we're your parents. Family is supposed to take care of each other. We did so much for you growing up, and now you're just abandoning us. I took a deep breath to keep from hurling my phone at the wall. Abandoning them? I'd been holding them up for years while they coddled Eric and encouraged his laziness. And now, when they had to face the consequences of their own decisions, I was the bad guy? This time, I wasn't falling for it. I typed, you made it clear I'm not part of the family when you left me out of the will. Now let Eric take care of you. I could practically hear my mom's theatrical gasp, the way she always played the victim even when she was wrong. A few minutes later, a text from my dad came through, and it made my blood boil. We're not asking for much. Just help with the mortgage for a few more months until we figure things out. Don't be selfish. Selfish? The word set me off. I'd been pulling them out of financial holes for years, sacrificing my own money, time, and energy to make their lives easier. I'd done everything a good son was supposed to do, and they repaid me by cutting me out. Now, when I finally stood up for myself, I was selfish? I clenched my teeth, took a deep breath, and typed, no, I'm done. Then I turned off my phone. They'd made their choice. Now they had to live with it. The silence lasted exactly 1 day. I knew they wouldn't give up easily, but I wasn't prepared for what came next. The next morning, I woke up to a notification. Money transfer request. I frowned, unlocked my phone, and looked. It was from my mom. She'd sent me a request for $3,500. Like I was an ATM. No message, no explanation. Just a shameless demand for the exact amount they needed to cover their overdue mortgage payment. They didn't even ask. They assumed I'd pay. I declined it without hesitation. Less than 5 minutes later, my phone rang. "Mom." I didn't answer. Then came her text. "Jake, I know you saw the request. Why did you decline it?" I didn't rush to respond. Finally, I typed, "Because it's not my responsibility. Try Eric." Another call. Declined. Another text. "Mom, we're going to lose the house if you don't help us." Oh, now it was an emergency. After years of me being their wallet, they were finally feeling the consequences. I typed back, "Maybe you should have thought about that before deciding I didn't matter to you." Seconds later, a text from my dad. "Dad, are you really going to let your parents go homeless?" I laughed out loud. The manipulation was so blatant it was almost funny. They weren't homeless. They weren't even close to eviction. They just didn't want to touch their savings because they were used to me footing the bill. I ignored them for the rest of the day. But that evening, Eric texted, "Eric, dude, just send them the money already. You're making this way harder than it needs to be." I clenched my jaw. This entitled leech was trying to lecture me? I replied, "You mean the money you're inheriting? So why don't you pay?" His response was instant. "Eric, you know I don't have that kind of money right now." Oh, so now it was about who had the cash. When I was spending my savings on them, it was fine. But when it was his turn, he suddenly had nothing. I typed, "Well, bro, I guess you'll have to figure it out. After all, they chose you." No reply. I went to bed with an odd sense of relief. I'd finally broken the cycle. But the next day, things escalated. I was at work when the front desk of my building called. Jake, your parents are here." I nearly dropped my phone. "What?" The receptionist hesitated. "They say it's urgent, and that you're not answering your calls." Oh my God, they'd actually shown up at my place because I stopped paying their bills. I took a deep breath, pinched the bridge of my nose, and said, "Don't let them in. I'm not expecting them." An awkward pause. They're being a little insistent." I gritted my teeth. "I don't care. Tell them to leave." I hung up and immediately got a text. "Mom, we're downstairs. Let us in." No question, no explanation, just another demand. I didn't respond. Another text. "Mom, we're not leaving until you talk to us." I exhaled sharply, leaning back in my chair. They weren't backing down. Fine. I'd give them a lesson they'd never forget. I grabbed my keys and headed downstairs, my anger building with every step. I wasn't scared. I was furious. How dare they show up at my home, uninvited, demanding money like I was their ATM? They didn't even call first. They didn't try to apologize. Just pure, shameless entitlement. They thought they could corner me and make me cave, like I was a kid. I flung the door open. There they were, Mom, Dad, and of course, Eric, standing shoulder to shoulder like they were staging an intervention. Mom had her arms crossed, her signature disapproving look in full force. Dad stood tense, hands in his pockets, his eyes a mix of disappointment and superiority, like he couldn't believe he had to deal with this in person. And Eric? That leech had the nerve to look bored, like this was beneath him, like he wasn't the root of this mess. The second my mom saw me, she launched into drama mode. "Jake, finally! We need to talk!" I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "No, you need to leave." She blinked, like she couldn't process it. "What? You heard me?" I said, my voice calm but firm. "You don't get to show up at my home and demand money. That's insane." My dad scoffed. "Are you really going to let us lose the house over some petty grudge?" I let out a cold laugh. "Petty grudge?" I stepped forward. "You mean the one where you decided I was good enough to pay your bills, but not good enough to be in the will?" Mom gasped, clutching her chest like I'd slapped her. "Jake, that's not fair. We just did what was best for the family." I tilted my head, feigning curiosity. "Best for the family? You mean best for Eric? Just say it." Silence. Heavy, deafening silence. Eric, who'd been quiet, finally spoke up. "Look, man, I don't want to be in the middle of this. I didn't ask for any of this." I snapped my head toward him, unleashing the anger I'd held back. "No! You just sat back and took everything they handed you." I stepped closer, staring him down. "You're 28 years old, Eric. Get a damn job." His face turned red. "Dude, are you kidding me?" "You heard me," I said, stepping closer still. "You want to inherit the house? Start acting like a homeowner. You want to be the golden boy? Pay their damn bills." I straightened up, arms crossed. "I'm done being your personal bank." Eric looked away, suddenly fascinated by the pavement. Mom took a deep breath, gearing up for more emotional manipulation. "Jake, he's your brother." I nodded. "Yeah, and I've supported him longer than you ever did." Dad's face darkened. "You're being selfish." I laughed, loud and genuine. "That's rich, coming from you." I gestured between them. "You two decided Eric deserves everything, and I deserve nothing. And now, when you have to face the consequences, you're guilting me into fixing it?" I shook my head. "Not happening." Mom's voice hardened. "We thought you'd be the adult here." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, you mean the adult who quietly accepts betrayal and keeps paying your bills?" I shook my head. "Let's not pretend, Mom. That's exactly what you wanted." Dad stepped forward, trying to loom over me like when I was a kid. "Jake, we raised you. We fed you, clothed you, gave you everything you have. So the least you can do is help us now." I met his gaze head on. "I already did. For years." I leaned in closer. "And you repaid me by cutting me out of your lives." Mom's lip trembled. "We thought you'd understand." I sighed heavily, shaking my head. "Oh, I understand." I looked at them both. "I understand that to you I was never family. Just a wallet." Silence again, suffocating this time. I turned to Eric, who'd been pretending not to exist. "And you? Got any excuses?" I crossed my arms. "You've had years to get your act together, to take responsibility, to do something. But you didn't." I paused, locking eyes with him. "Because you knew they'd always take care of you. And when they're gone, you figured I'd pick up the slack." Eric exploded. "I didn't ask for this." I nodded slowly. "Right. You didn't ask. You just took." His mouth opened, then shut. He had nothing. Mom made one last guilt-trip attempt. "Jake, we're family, and family takes care of each other." I stared at her for a long moment, then said slowly, "Exactly. So, why didn't you ever take care of me?" She froze. No words, no excuses, nothing. I took a deep breath, feeling lighter than I had in years. "We're done here." I turned, walked back into my apartment, and shut the door in their faces. I didn't even reach the couch before my phone buzzed. A text from Dad. "After everything we've done for you, you're really going to abandon us?" I chuckled and typed back, "No, you abandoned me. I just finally accepted it." I hit send, then blocked their numbers, but that only made things worse. Less than a day later, it spiraled out of control. I started seeing posts on Facebook. My parents weren't tech-savvy, but they knew how to stir drama online when they felt righteous. At first, I thought it was just their usual theatrics. Airing family grievances publicly was their style. But as I scrolled, I realized it was more. It wasn't just about me not helping with money. It was a calculated attack disguised as family love. Mom posted, "I didn't raise my son to be this selfish. Real family helps each other no matter what." Her friends commented, "What a disappointment," and "He's forgotten what's important." Dad chimed in, "Real family doesn't abandon each other in tough times. We gave everything to our kids, and this is the thanks we get. Our son, who was supposed to help us, chose to walk away. He tagged me, adding a passive-aggressive, "Hope you're happy." Then Eric jumped in, pouring gasoline on the fire with a post full of lies. Some people think family is just about money. They don't understand that it's about love and sacrifice. I'd do anything for my parents, but some people are too self-centered to see that. They're too wrapped up in their own lives to realize true love means taking care of the people who raised you. He added a subtle dig. Wish some people could learn what it means to be a real family. I love my parents and appreciate everything they've done for me. That was my breaking point. I sat there, staring at the screen in disbelief. How did we get here? They'd twisted the narrative completely. Now I was the villain, the selfish son who refused to help his struggling parents, who didn't appreciate their love. How could they? I'd always been the one who worked, who helped, who never complained. I had to face the fact that they'd convinced themselves they were right and were now telling everyone I was the problem. I didn't react right away. I took a breath, calmed down, and waited a few hours. I wasn't going to get dragged into a petty online spat, but the more I thought about it, the more I knew I couldn't let it stand. If they were going to drag my name through the mud, I'd set the record straight. I grabbed my phone, opened my personal Facebook, used only for close friends and real family, and wrote a long post. I wasn't going to play their game or stoop to their level. I was going to tell the truth. Here's what I posted. I've been silent for the past few days, but I can't stay quiet anymore. My family has been spreading lies about me online, painting me as the selfish son who refused to help his parents in need. It's time to set the record straight. I've always helped my family. From my first job, I was the one paying bills, buying groceries, supporting them however I could. But there comes a point when you can't keep giving without even a shred of respect in return. For years, I watched my parents choose Eric. The house, the money, the attention, all went to him. I was just expected to keep giving, never seen as equal. Sure, some might think that's what family does, but family is a two-way street. When I found out they left everything to Eric in their will, I realized how one-sided this always was. They didn't even consider me, not for a second. To them, I was just the one they could count on when things went wrong, never the one they wanted around unless it benefited them. I've subsidized their lifestyle for years, paid for vacations, bills, even property taxes on the house. For what? To be treated like a backup plan. I'm done. I'm not a wallet to be used when it's convenient. I'm a person. I deserve respect. I've earned the right to be valued, not just when they need something. As for Eric, it's time he grew up. He's 28 and has never worked a day in his life. He's never taken responsibility for anything. My parents enabled his laziness so long it's no wonder he's their favorite. But he's had plenty of time to get his act together. Now it's time he learned to stand on his own. To those siding with my parents in this drama, remember, there are two sides to every story. Yes, family matters. But family is built on mutual respect. I've given enough, my whole life. I'm not apologizing for finally choosing myself. I'm not turning my back on family. I'm done being their doormat. Mom, Dad, Eric, I wish you the best, but I'm not your punching bag anymore. I hit post and felt a wave of relief. For the first time, I'd spoken the truth about how they'd used me, expected me to be their endless safety net, and never cared about my needs. I wasn't letting them control the narrative anymore. The response was instant. People I hadn't talked to in years, cousins, friends, distant relatives, reached out, liking the post, messaging me, saying they were sorry I'd gone through this. It was validating to finally speak my truth without guilt or manipulation. But then came the backlash. My parents and Eric were furious. Eric texted, "You're a traitor. Did you really have to air our dirty laundry in public? You have no respect for family." Dad called, screaming, "You've ruined everything, Jake. You'll regret this. Cutting us off, turning your back on family." But here's the difference. I didn't regret it. Not for a second. I blocked them all. I was done. And for the first time, I was free. Free from their toxic influence, from being the scapegoat, from the endless expectation that I'd fix their problems. As days passed, the weight lifted off my shoulders. I was done being valued only for what I could give. Now, I had the freedom to live on my terms. So no, I don't feel guilty for cutting them off. I deserve better. I still deserve better. From now on, I choose to surround myself with people who value me for who I am, not what I can provide. It's time to move on. And I will. For good. What do you think about this whole situation? Let me know in the comments below.